Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. Please visit our website, cscatlanta.org, for a complete list of live and recorded events. We invite you to sign up for our newsletter to stay connected to all future programs.
So we're going to cover a few topics today. Really what I want y'all to get out of this is feeling confident as you go through the grocery store. The first thing we're going to talk about is how to, look at a food label. See, they recently updated it. So what are the new things that they're highlighting on the food label? We're also going to talk about organic foods versus non-organic foods. What does that mean? What does the different labeling mean for those? We're going to talk about how to build a healthy plate. So when you're shopping, how to know if you've gotten the different components of your plate to make it healthy and well balanced. We also are going to identify cost-effective options in all the different food groups and categories of the grocery store, so that you might learn something to look out for next time you're shopping. And then finally, we're going to review just some grocery shopping tips as well as some food safety tips while you're grocery shopping. So recently, they redid the food label. These are found on all of your packaging as you shop. The old food label was about 20 years old. And so as you can see from the picture, starting kind of at the top of the nutrition facts label, the serving sizes are in bigger, bolder font. It's typically going to tell you in that box of pasta or cereal box that you get, how many servings that you would have per that container. The other thing to look out for is in bold below it is actually what the serving size is. That does not mean that that's the only serving size that you need to eat at the mealtime, but that's just telling you, hey, we base these values that you're going to see below off of this picture, 2/3 of a cup. You can see that the calories are listed in bigger, bolder font at the top. So that's again going to tell you the calories per serving. And let's say you wanted to have a double serving of something, then you would just multiply that by 2. Finally, there's also there's an added sugars component. So we're going to talk about how to identify those and what is considered an added sugar here in a minute. It also talks about the different nutrients and nutritional value at the bottom you can see it highlights various things, whether it be vitamin D, calcium, iron. And then they actually, in the past, they kind of left it as like a wider range, bigger variety upon the percentages, but now it actually tells you the actual percent for your daily value. So first, we're going to look at each different kind of section on the food label. We're going to start with the carbohydrates, or as a lot of people call them, carbs. They are your primary energy source for your body. Basically, any sort of carbohydrate is turned into glucose, which is what your body uses for energy. There are 3 types of carbohydrates: fiber, starches, and sugar. And then on the nutrition facts label that you can see on the side of the slide, the total carbohydrates encapsulates all 3 of those types of carbohydrates. So it gives you the total carbohydrates, which, as you can see, this product has 37 grams. It gives you the amount of fiber, which you always want to look for something, especially in your like whole grain, whole wheat products. High fiber foods are good for heart health and gut health. So that's always something important to look for. It also will give you the total sugars. And then that will be your natural sugars as well as your added sugars. So you can see underneath the total sugars, it tells you how much added sugar there is in that product. So to kind of go more off of the added sugars, if there are many different, these are the sugars that have been added to the food to make basically for taste or flavor. basically, their added sugars come in many different names. You can see agave nectar, corn syrup, honey, dextrose, fructose, or sucrose. So it can be a lot of different things. And I don't want you to have like a fear of not purchasing a product because of the added sugars. But if you're trying to watch your blood sugar control, if you have diabetes, or if you're just looking for a product that has less added sugars, then that would be something for you to look at on your ingredient label. But one kind of side note is that the American Heart Association does have guidelines for people for added sugar intake for heart health. For men, as you can see, it's no more than 9 teaspoons a day. And for women, it's no more than 6 teaspoons a day. So that's just something to be mindful for heart health. Now, as we kind of keep going down the food label, there's also some products may have protein in them. Protein is good for a lot of different things in your body, such as like repairing cells, muscle support. Protein is your longer lasting energy in your body. So your body's going to use a carbohydrate a lot faster than it would a protein. So when you do build a meal or a snack, it's important that you have some sort of lean protein or plant-based protein as part of your meal or snack. So the proteins listed towards the bottom, and, kind of a rule of thumb or generalized guideline would be about 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. But each person's different. So, always feel free to reach out, and you can work with a registered dietitian on that. And then fat is another category that's listed on the product food label. There are a lot of different types of fat. So as you can see under the fat category, this has examples of saturated fat, trans fats, and cholesterol. Now, cholesterol isn't going to contribute to any calories, but it is something to watch if you're being conscious, again, kind of about your heart health. You want to mainly focus, and the types of healthy fats that you want to incorporate into your diet are going to be your unsaturated fats. So if anybody's ever heard of omega-3 fatty acids, those would be like your salmon, a lot of your fish, your like olive oil, or omega-3 fatty acids are found in nuts, walnuts, almonds, things like that. So those are going to be your healthy fats. Now, I think, one of the kind of main things I wanted to talk about was like, as you're going through the grocery store, it's hard a lot of times to see, marketing companies are really good at putting like eye-catching phrases out there. So a lot of times you might see one, I'm going to use cereal as an example, a box of cereal that says 100% organic. Or you might see another one that says made with organic ingredients. Or you might see a product that says 100% natural. So it can be very confusing at times to decide like what's best for me, what product should I buy. So the next few slides, we're going to talk about what each labeling kind of means, hopefully, so you can use that when you're at the grocery store next time. So you might have seen this USDA organic sticker before on certain items. This is something that's regulated by the USDA. And as you can see, there are a couple different certifications for something to be considered or to not be considered organic to get that green seal of approval. So first, if something's 100% organic, then that means all the ingredients are certified organic. Any processing aids must be organic. And product labels also must state more information than others. This also can use the green USDA organic seal. Now, if you have something that just says organic, it also can have this the green USDA seal, but if it just says organic, then that means at least 95% of the ingredients and processing to make that product is organic. So that's why it can use that green seal of approval as well. Now, some products may say that they're just made with organic ingredients. So this means that at least 70% of the ingredients are certified organic. So this would be like maybe, I know I keep using cereal as an example, but it's just kind of easy because there are so many different varieties out there. So it may be that the cereal has organic oats in it and organic like nut clusters, but the other parts of the cereal are not organic. So it cannot use the green USDA seal of approval, but it can still say that it's made with organic ingredients. And then if it just has specific organic ingredients, like, you know, if it says made with organic flour or made with organic almonds, then that's just kind of an ingredient listing. And then in the actual ingredient list, it'll tell you. You know, I bring this up because it, like I was saying a minute ago, just because something says organic on the label doesn't necessarily mean from like a calorie, a fat, and added sugar perspective, it's healthier. It's really about like the processing of the product and the way in which the ingredients were grown. That's what makes something organic more beneficial. So now, like we kind of talked about, okay, you're at the grocery store and you've looked around and you've gotten your ingredients, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, it's important that when you are planning your meals or you're preparing your snacks or trying to think of, I'm sitting down to make my grocery list for the week, how do I make sure that my diet is balanced? How do I make sure that I'm getting everything I need? Well, the kind of old school and like years ago, not too long ago, there was the food pyramid, and then you had like the My Pyramid, and it kind of had all your different food groups listed. But now things have shifted more towards a balanced plate. This is more like visually appealing, and you can kind of visualize what your plate needs to look like. So as you can see on the slide, you want half of your plate to be non-starchy vegetables. And then in the next couple of slides, I'm going to go over some examples of those. You want a fourth of your plate to be a grain or starch. And specifically, you want that grain or starch to be whole wheat or whole grain. And then you also want a fourth of your plate to be protein. And with that fourth of the plate protein, you want to choose either like a plant-based protein, such as like beans or peas, or some sort of lean protein like a salmon or chicken, things like that. A lot of times, you know, and then this also has an example of fruit as a side, which is a great way to add some extra fiber, some extra vitamins and minerals into your plate. So the biggest thing is, you know, I kind of think about a lot of times if we go out to eat, sometimes that top half of the plate might be what is served for our pasta portion and then a little green side, but really you want to flip it and make sure half of your plate is some sort of non-starchy vegetable. It doesn't have to be one. You could do half of a side salad and maybe some sauteed veggies on the side. So now kind of like picture yourself somewhat, we're going to go around the grocery store to the different kind of sections and categories. And I am going to kind of go over what to look for when you're shopping. And we'll kind of go from there in the different food categories. So with your fruits and vegetables, it's easy to get stuck in a routine of just like a side salad or, just something easy. So these are some suggestions of ways to kind of think outside of the box to help get some more of those fiber-rich fruits and vegetables into your diet. So if you do have a dipping sauce like a salsa or hummus, guacamole, try to use the actual like veggies as your chip instead of getting a chip or a pretzel, or you can do a combination of a few things. Also, it's best when you're shopping if you do not. I know that the pre-made, pre-chopped vegetables and fruits are convenience items, but you're most likely paying more for those because they are already processed and chopped. But also, once something's like cut and prepared, it starts to lose its nutritional value. So it's actually better if you can buy like, say a bunch of grapes, bring them home, wash them yourself, and then put them in the refrigerator instead of buying something that's pre-done for you. I know that it may be difficult. Like if you, like right now, watermelon's in season and it's really convenient if you just buy like the small little container of watermelon, but sometimes that may be double the cost of an actual whole watermelon. So it may be that you have a neighbor or a friend that you can split it with, or, try to find some new ways to utilize the extra produce that you have. Grilled fruit, especially like peaches and plums, any kind of stone fruit or pineapple too, is a great way to make a dessert. So if you are grilling out, throwing some of the stone fruit on the grill can be an easy dessert. Veggies, especially if you have leftover veggies, are a great way to use for pizza toppings. And then also, frozen produce is just as nutritious as fresh. So, any of those frozen produce or microwave bag or the produce that come in the microwave bags, those are perfectly fine to keep on hand to help you as you shop. Topping a baked potato to kind of make that the center of your meal, or topping a sweet potato can be a great kind of easy way to utilize some extra veggies in there too. And then fruit is also a very easy thing, whether or not you're having yogurt, oatmeal, cereal, just throwing a handful of like frozen blueberries on your breakfast. That can be an easy way to get in a little bit extra fiber and those vitamins and minerals as well. And then omelets are also a great way to use veggies too. So these are just some examples of your non-starchy vegetables like that I was talking about, trying to build half your plate from. And then you also have your starchy vegetables. Now, I think there's a common misconception that people should avoid like sweet potatoes or any sort of starchy vegetables. And that actually, we actually really do encourage you to do those starchy vegetables as a balanced meal or snack. It's all really about getting a lot of great color variety in your diet. And so some of these things like, your sweet potatoes, your pumpkin, your butternut squash, those are really that rich orange color, which has beta carotene in it. And that's really good for you. So I'm going to leave you all with some challenges at the end of this, but maybe take a note while you're looking and try to see if there's some sort of non-starchy vegetable on here you haven't cooked with before or you haven't tried. So we talked about produce. So now thinking about like the bread aisle, as well as your grains or cereals, or even just, general kind of like starchy foods. The biggest thing to remember with this is you want to choose something that is a whole grain. So the first ingredient on the back of the bread label would say 100% whole wheat. That's your like key kind of takeaway of what you want to look for when you're looking for bread or like a wrap or a pita or anything like that, a dinner roll, something like that. You just want to make sure that the first ingredient says 100% whole wheat. For your fiber per serving, if you want something that's higher in fiber, if it's greater than 3 grams per serving, then that's going to be something that's considered high fiber. And again, back to like the initial slide, it would be located under where the carbohydrate section is. Now, there is a kind of misleading claim that multigrain sometimes does not always mean that it's 100% whole grain. Multigrain just may mean that it has a bunch of different types of grain in the product, but they still can be refined. Refined means that they're just processed a little bit more than something that's whole grain or not refined. Another challenge to do is to try to find a grain you haven't cooked before. Quinoa, it's spelled Quiona. Yeah, quinoa is a really great grain that cooks just like rice. There's also bulgur and a lot of different things that you might have seen before, but not necessarily tried. So I think that's also a fun little challenge to try to find a recipe for that too. And then, finally, sometimes if you buy your grains in bulk, so if you just buy like a bigger bag of brown rice versus the individual packages, that can be cost savings in the long run because, again, like the fruit, you aren't necessarily paying for the extra convenience and packaging of the product. So as you go to shop for like your deli meat, or like you're going to the deli or like the meat counter or anything like that, the American Institute for Cancer Research does have a couple of guidelines pertaining to the type of protein that you consume. It's recommended to limit your red meat. So that includes beef, pork, and lamb. I know pork is advertised as the other white meat, but it is considered a red meat. They recommend limiting your red meat consumption to less than 16 ounces per week. So a serving of red meat or a serving of protein is about the size of a deck of cards or the palm of your hand. So that'd be about 4 servings per week to limit of your red meat. The AICR does encourage your consumption of lean proteins and also of plant-based proteins too. So when we're talking about plant-based proteins, it's okay if you want to buy canned beans. A lot of times we don't have the time to cook dry beans all day. So if you do buy your canned beans, just try to buy the low sodium or sodium free just to prevent you from consuming extra salt in your diet. And then finally, you do the other recommendation from the American Institute from Cancer Research is to limit your processed deli meats. These deli meats contain nitrites and nitrates. And so a lot of times you find that in like your breakfast meats or like your deli meats that you might, like your turkey or ham or whatever that you get for lunch, or in hot dogs too. They do make some products now that do not have the nitrates or nitrites added in them. Typically, like a keyword on the package would say all natural or no nitrites or nitrates. But if you can, it's best to just avoid any kind of processed meat. And then also just, like we were talking about with the beans, you can purchase like bulk frozen or bulk fresh lean protein like salmon or chicken. Like if you bought like a bigger pack of chicken And then you can individually freeze the breasts to pull out one at a time. And sometimes if you buy in bigger bulk, then the cost can go down. So these are just some examples of different types of high quality lean proteins that are found out there. For instance, like if you have a salad, if you throw some chickpeas or garbanzo beans on it, that's a quick, easy way to add some protein to something. Same thing, like if you were making like if you had a vegetable soup, adding some beans to it would be an easy way to make it a complete meal. Then we also have a lot of different fish examples here. You can see it's recommended, if you do like fish, to try to do like 3 to 4 servings a week. You do want to try to limit your fish that are high in mercury, which are typically like swordfish and some of your like bigger tuna. But I think there's different ways, to incorporate lean protein in the diet too. So then, like, as you're shopping around, a lot of times when we're cooking, there are so many different like oil options out there these days. It can get confusing as to like what type of oil we need to be cooking with. So olive oil is high in omega-3 fatty acids. It's best to cook with it at a low or medium temperature. And then canola oil or avocado oil can be used to cook things at higher temperatures. So it's just like they just don't break down as fast as olive oil. So if you're going to saute something, then the olive oil would be fine. But if you're going to do something at a higher heat, then like the canola oil or olive oil would be your better choice. Also you can see there's some examples of some nuts and seeds that are listed as healthy fats. Making your own trail mix too may be an easy way to get in some of those nuts and seeds versus if buying something that's already pre-made. And then you can kind of tailor it to what things you personally like.
MaryParker, we have a question on what your thoughts are on coconut oil.
So coconut oil does have a higher saturated fat profile. So I think, the recommendations are just to use it sparingly with your cooking. But it is a, acceptable cooking method. Does that help answer? Because I know some people like to pair it with certain like vegetables if you're sauteing for the flavor.
She did say yes, thank you.
Yep. I would just limit like some people will incorporate it more so like on a daily basis. So I would just use it sparingly in your cooking because it is high in saturated fat.
Did have another question about nuts.
Yeah.
I love nuts and would eat them every day, but they seem to cause constipation. Do you have any thoughts about that?
So unfortunately, everybody's GI tract is different. A lot of times it may depend on the quantity of nuts that you're eating or the type. Nuts are high in fiber. So to be honest, I unfortunately don't have a specific answer for that, but you may, if you compare it with if you compare your nuts with like some dried apricots or even maybe like a dried prune as like a trail mix type thing, that may balance each other out just so that you don't have that GI issue.
Good idea. Thank you.
Yeah. So these are just some like smart shopping tips that I've kind of talked about as we've gone through. But, it's important that when you're grocery shopping, you go prepared. It might be something where you can keep like if your refrigerator is magnetic, or if you have like a area nearby where you can write, okay, I'm running low on nut butter, so I need to make sure to get that, just so that when it's time for you to grocery shop, you actually have kind of a tool to sit down and think about like what you need, and you won't get home from the grocery store and be like, oh gosh, I forgot to get the peanut butter because I forgot to write it down. So I think it's just being prepared and knowing what you need to get when you go. Another tip is to avoid going to the store hungry. When we grocery shop and we're hungry, we tend to grab the things that we want that we might not necessarily need. So you may walk out of there with some extra, some extra treats in your cart that when you get home, you might be like, well, I don't know why I bought this because I don't have a use for it. So that's kind of, you won't end up spending money on non-essential items. Again, we've talked about buying in bulk. If you're able to do that, sometimes like the cost per serving is a lot less if you buy it in a bigger container as opposed to the single serve pouches or individually packaged like protein. Again, try to limit your like pre-chopped or convenience style items just because you're paying for the extra cost for the grocery store employee to prep that. Also, you're just, the produce might start degrading by the time you get it home. I also would recommend with like your meat at the meat counter, they do sometimes have stuff that's pre-marinated for you, but it's best if you can just get it home and marinate it yourself. Just again, from like a food safety perspective, that way you kind of know that this, whatever it is, has been in a sealed package and you brought it home and you marinated it yourself. Also, seasonal produce can be a lot more affordable than out of season produce. So sometimes it may be beneficial to kind of shop in season. And then finally, buying generic brands or buying like store brands sometimes can be more affordable than buying name brands. And they're going to pretty much be the same thing. It's just you're paying for the extra couple cents for the name brand compared to something that's generic brand. And then kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about was just some food safety tips when you are grocery shopping. Inspect your food packages. Just make sure that things aren't dented or, especially with canned goods, you don't want them to be dented or bulging. If anything's supposed to be sealed, as far as like produce, you want to make sure that it's sealed. Shop in order. I've gotten to where I like to write down my grocery list in order to where the perishable items I'll get last. So anything that's frozen, anything that needs to be cooled, get that last so it doesn't sit in your cart for too long. Also, getting your produce that you're only going to try to eat over the course of the week. This helps to prevent you having to throw away excess stuff. And then also, you just don't want something sitting in your refrigerator for too long that could potentially kind of grow stuff on because it is fresh. And then I know a lot of people use reusable grocery bags, but it is important that you wash those every now and then. That's just something that goes to and from the grocery store. It stays in your car. That's just kind of just a practice every once in a while. Just toss them in the washing machine. And then that way you'll make sure that they stay clean as well. And then also the last thing is if you're going to run errands after you grocery shop or if something comes up, I always try to keep one of those like hot, cold, they're like bags that you can find at the grocery store in my car. just in case I have gone shopping, got cold items, and then something came up and I had to stay out longer than I thought. That way, you really don't want stuff to sit out for more than like 45 minutes, 30, 45 minutes to an hour without actually putting it back in the refrigerator. So those are something easy that you can just fold down and keep in your car if the situation comes up. And then I also, one final thing I meant to say, a lot of people have questions about if I should buy like organic produce or not organic produce. It's totally up to personal preference. The food itself is gonna pretty much have like the same fiber, vitamin, and mineral content. It's just that the organic produce would have been processed with pesticides compared to like your conventional produce. It can get expensive. So I use a rule of thumb a lot of times. If I'm going to take the peel off the outside, so like an orange or a pineapple or something like that, then you don't necessarily have to get it organic, but something like a strawberry or grapes or some of your lettuces that you aren't going to take the outside off, I would definitely, consider getting those organic, or at least washing them, and you don't even have to use like a produce wash or soap or anything like that, but just washing them well when you get them home. I know that's not on there, but that was just a side thing. So I just wanted to leave y'all with a couple challenges and like a couple thoughts, kind of as we're still early in the week. So if you have to do something later on in the week, I know it's hot outside, but there are a lot of different farmers markets around the state. So, I think that's a great way to get out and get to know the different farmers that are local to you. Also, a lot of stuff is in season right now. Try to make a plant-based protein meal. So whether it's making a salad with some beans on it, or making this winter, trying to do like a vegetarian chili or something like that. And then the third one is try to cook with a vegetable or a fruit that you haven't used before. So, next time you shop, like be intentional of like walking around the produce aisle, maybe trying to identify something you haven't seen before. I feel like a lot of times we walk in the grocery store and we're very just like, this is what I need, this is where I need to go. And so just take the time to kind of look around and see what other options are out there. And you might actually find a new brand or something new to try that you haven't before. So yeah. So I hope this was helpful to y'all. And then I have some references back here. There are a lot of great websites out there that you can find. A quick search can be a good kind of reminder of what to do when you're shopping. And they also have a lot of printable like list templates out there where you can kind of print off. It just says grocery list, and then it has the different categories, and then you can go in and fill what you need just to kind of keep you on track while you're shopping.
Thank you, MaryParker. We did have some questions come in. I quickly do want to mention, though, that next week we will have our next cooking demo on Tuesday, the 23rd, I believe, at 11 o'clock, and it will be on summer salads. So if you're interested in hearing some recipes using more plant-based produce, definitely tune into that, and you can register on our website, cscatlanta.org. We hope that you'll join us. Okay, I have a question about rotisserie chicken. Is it healthy as baked chicken, as healthy as baked chicken?
So with the rotisserie chicken, it's definitely a convenience item. It is baked. It's just like a rotisserie style where it spins. So that's the way it gets its name. You do want to remove the skin when you eat the rotisserie chicken, just because the skin is going to be your source of saturated fat. So that would be my main thing, is if you did buy a rotisserie chicken, just to peel off the fat or peel off the skin before you ate it. I know some places may inject the chicken with some different seasonings or flavorings. So it's really, up to you as to which type you want. But I usually like to get their plain original one and then take the skin off, and you can shred it for different purposes throughout over the course of the next few days at home.
And we had one person that was going to unmute themselves. Vera, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Hi. I found this session to be very helpful. My question is regarding salt in the diet, and how I had an episode where I had a nosebleed and found out that my blood pressure was high, and kind of gave it some deep thought and realized that I had purchased food, like the previous day I had purchased food at different restaurants because I'm a caregiver and I don't want to cook every day. So that shocked me, and I was determined to start watching my salt intake. So everything has so much salt, even a piece of bread. If you have 2 pieces of bread and the sandwiches, I had bought a half a sandwich from Publix and they said, and I looked at the nutrition information, it was like 1,400 milligrams. And that was without cheese. I've been invited to a cancer support group picnic from Jason's Deli, and I looked to see how much the ham sandwich, it was, we could choose a ham or turkey sandwich or veggie wrap. I had to wind up taking a veggie wrap because both of them are like 1,400 milligrams of salt. So how do we, to me, it's a challenge. I don't want to cook every day, but it seems like that's going to be my lot, to try to cut down on salt, across the spectrum. Because like I said, even bread, anything in your kitchen, rotisserie chicken, or even some unless you're frozen vegetables, those don't have too much salt. But it really kind of, a pizza, I haven't had a pizza in 3 months because of the salt. So what do you advise on that? Because that's bad for the heart too, and the blood pressure, how much salt is in the American diet.
Yeah, I know. You got it. Okay.
Thank you.
So I know that it is difficult when you're trying to limit something like that. And like you said, a lot of the, not just a lot of food in general, like you said, even if you wanted to make a sandwich at home, bread has salt in it. So, I think that it's whether, if you can, I know you said you don't like to cook a lot, but it may be more of meal prep, or even if I call it kind of batch cooking. So let's say you yourself made some baked chicken breast for the week, then you could pair it with different things. So you could pair it with some brown rice, and you could pair it with some veggies that you do yourself and kind of make a stir fry bowl. So again, it's navigating, like you said, because cheese does have salt in it, and then your bread does have salt. So for your pizza, it may be that you have a slice, but then you fill up, if you're still hungry after that one slice, then you have some sort of side salad, or some veggies or something along those lines in addition to that one slice, instead of filling up just on the pizza itself. Another thing that you can do is get veggies added to your pizza instead of having the ham or the sausage or the pepperoni. A lot of times those processed meats, you found out when you went to the luncheon, that your nitrates and nitrites are actually sodium nitrate and sodium nitrite. So that's why a lot of your processed foods have more salt. So I think the biggest thing that I could recommend would be just trying to, plan ahead and, maybe bake something or make something and then freeze part of it so that you can pull out at a later date, so you don't feel like you're having to make something all over again yourself. They do make a low sodium bread that you can find. Or it may be getting something like some unsalted crackers, unsalted whole wheat crackers, to have kind of as your substitute if you want like a crunch or something during the meal.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I guess that's the same idea you'd recommend for like lunch ideas in place of lunch meat, like you said, because I got some low sodium from Publix roast beef and low sodium. They taste terrible, low sodium turkey. So I think, like you said, the batch cooking and kind of use those for healthy lunch ideas rather than lunch meat. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We had one more question. My aromatase inhibitor side effect is a raised cholesterol. So my cholesterol went up for the first time. What is the number one thing to do to get that down?
So I think there's not one like set, this is what you have to do. I think it's like a combination of things. So it's going to be, trying to be physically active as, what's within like your ability to do. And then also trying to incorporate plenty of foods that have fiber in them, like your fruits and vegetables, as well as cooking and incorporating those foods that have omega-3 fatty acids in them. So that's going to be your healthy fats that you may find in your tuna, salmon, also like an olive oil based dressing, or incorporating just like a handful of nuts as a snack. Those would be kind of the three components, but it's not just one thing. It's going to be a combination of both diet and physical activity that's going to help your cholesterol levels come down.
All right. Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? Feel free to put those in the chat. Also wanted to mention that we are recording today's session, so that will be available on our website, cscatlanta.org. And we will also share the PowerPoint presentation as well on our website.
I had one more question. Like you said, don't the requirement, or the healthy requirement in terms of sugar, is 6 teaspoons, if I understood you correctly, 6 teaspoons for women per day or no more. On the food labels, it's not typically, and if I'm not mistaken, listed as teaspoons. I think they're like grams of sugar, if I'm not mistaken. How do we know what 6 teaspoons of sugar, are?
The question is, MaryParker, how do we know what 16 teaspoons of sugar are?
So with that, for you kind of have to think about it in, hold on, let me go back to that slide. Sorry. Okay. So you can see that for down at the bottom of the slide, no more than 36 grams per day of added sugar for men, no more than 25 grams per day of added sugar per women. Okay. So next to that, 25 grams is equal to roughly about 6 teaspoons. And then 36 grams is equal to 9 teaspoons. So like if you have coffee or tea in the morning, instead of using like an actual spoon, if you're wanting to be conscious of how much added sugar you're putting in your coffee, I would maybe use an actual like teaspoon. And then you can say, okay, I'm putting 2 teaspoons in here. But, I think a lot of the only time that you're, that's how you would know to get back to your question, that's how you would know where it says included 10 grams of added sugars. So that means that in 2/3 cup of this product, you have 10 grams of added sugar. So that's how you would know, okay, well, I had 10 for the day. So according to the American Heart Association, I've met my recommended limit. I wouldn't like hyper focus on that unless you're worried about your blood sugar or limiting just foods with added sugar. But again, I'm actually not even sure what this label is. So it's just something if you're looking to get a new cereal, a new like granola. Sometimes the granolas can have a lot of added sugar in them. Also any sort of like fruit juice that's not 100% fruit juice, that can be a source of added sugar, or any of those like bottle, like pre-made, like a pre-made smoothie drink or something like that. But that is where you would find it. So no, just for men, it'd be no more than 36 grams a day. And for women, it'd be about 25 for your added sugars.
All right. And Sharon, it looked like you had your hand raised. Did you have a question?
I do. I jumped in here about 12:25, so I missed some of it. And the part about the added sugars, you might have already said this, but let me just ask you. So are you set? So let's just say I have plain yogurt in the morning with no sugar, and then I have fruit with that, strawberries and blueberries. So they have their own sugar. So that's okay because it doesn't have the added sugars. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly. Is it the added sugars that's part of the 25 grams per day?
So the question was blueberries that have added sugar. What, I'm sorry?
I guess what I'm saying is if I've got natural fruit, does the natural fruit part of that added sugars on the label?
Oh, when on the label, if it says it has added fruit.
Well, it says added sugar. So is the added sugar representative of the fruit? Or if I put, like if I was to sprinkle sugar on top of the fruit, is that the added sugar they're talking about?
If the labels.
Added sugar, does that mean that it's just includes the fruit itself, or that sugar has been added to the fruit?
No, it's well, let's see. So I guess so this is going to be like added. This is more of like added sugars outside of like the natural sugars that you find in fruit. So depending upon what it is, I mean, I know fructose is, but I wouldn't worry so much about the natural sugars that come from fruit, as opposed to something that where they've added high fructose corn syrup to something.
Okay, I understand.
All right. Well, if there aren't any further questions, thank you all for joining us today. Again, we do have these nutrition seminars every month. And next week we will have our cooking demo on summer salads. So we invite you to join us for that next Tuesday. And we hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much, MaryParker, for volunteering your time to do this program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. If you're interested in other live or recorded programs, please visit the online program tab of our website, cscatlanta.org. Or follow us on Facebook. We'll be sharing additional information on upcoming programs.